Good day everyone, I am Orlando T. Mendoza, the reporter of Data Collection Techniques. Data collection techniques have parts of it. We have interview, participants observation, focus group interview, observation evaluation, biography, autobiography. Interview involves participants sharing their experience, feelings, beliefs, and outlooks through informal conversation or structured discussions. They can be one-time or multiple sessions with the same or different participants, including group interviews, and vary in structure based on research design and goals. In addition, there are 4 parts of interview: structured, unstructured, semi-structured, and telephone interviews. Here in interviews, the participants share their experience, feelings of how they feel, belief, and outlooks through informal conversation. So like when we say informal conversation is like having conversation with my friends, asking how they are and talk about any topic. The next is participant observation. In this method, the researcher immerses himself or herself in the natural setting of the research participant. This can be a home, an office, an institution, etc. The researcher immersion in the natural setting of research participant enables himself, herself to see, hear, feel, and experience the research participant daily life, understanding their behavior, interaction, and experience firsthand. Here in participant observation, this method, the researcher immerses the natural setting of the research participant. It refers to collect data on the participants. Focus group interview involves 6 to 8 participants discussing topics openly, allowing for rich data due to diverse perspective. It facilitates discussion of critical or sensitive issues, but requires skilled moderation to maintain focus and achieve research goal. Also, in focus group interview, it involves 6 to 8 participants discussing for your past friends or something else. Observation evaluation involves research observing and recording verbal and non-verbal behavior of individuals or group with or without participating in activities. Some researchers use specialized instruments for data collection. Observation evaluation, it involves researcher observing and recording verbal and non-verbal behavior of groups or individual. So, what is verbal and non-verbal behavior? Verbal is a spoken or written communication, while non-verbal, it includes gestures, facial expressions, body language, and without words, or other forms of communication. And the last one is biography, autobiography. Diaries provide valuable first-hand accounts for research, offering insight and evidence that address research questions. Example, like the diary of Anne Frank and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, highlight the richness of personal narratives in understanding historical events and human experience. So here in biography or autobiography, diaries provide valuable first-hand accounts for research. These personal narratives can be valuable resource for researcher seeking authentic perspective on historical events. So that is all. Thank you.
Basic types of data collection. Roswell 2003 cites 4 types of data collection procedures in quantitative research. Number 1 is observation. The researcher takes field note on the behavior and activities of research participants at the site or in their natural settings. He records in an unstructured or semi-structured using prior question that the research want to know. Weigh activities in the research. The quantitative observer may take the role of a non-participant or observer or complete participant. Number 2 is interview. An interview is a conversation for gathering information. A research interview involves an interviewer who coordinates the process of the conversation and ask questions, and an interviewee who responds to those questions. Interviews can be conducted face-to-face or over the phone. Number 3 is questionnaire. Some examples of a questionnaire are customer satisfaction questionnaires. This type of research can be used in any situation where there's an interaction between a customer and an organization. For example, you might send a customer satisfaction survey after someone eats at your restaurant. Number 4 is survey. Data collection surveys collect information from targeted groups of people about their opinions, behavior, or knowledge. Common types of example surveys are written questionnaires, face-to-face or telephone interviews, focus groups, and electronic, email or website surveys.
The generic steps in data analysis. What are the generic steps in data analysis? According to Criswell 1998, these are the following generic steps in data analysis. First is organize and prepare the data for analysis. This involves transcribing interviews, optically scanning material, typing a field notes, or sorting into different types depending on the source of information. Data preparation also involves finding relevant data to ensure that analytics applications deliver meaningful information and actionable insights. The second step is read through all the data. This obtain a general sense of the information and reflect on its overall meaning. At times, the qualitative researchers writes marginal notes or start recording general thoughts about the data at this stage. The third step is begin detailed analysis with the coding process. According to Roseman and Drollis of 1998, they defined coding as the process of organizing material in chunks before bringing meaning to those chunks. Chunks means recoding of information. Begin detailed analysis with the coding process involves taking text or pictures, segmenting sentences or paragraphs or images into categories, and labeling those categories with term, often a term based on the actual language or a participant called an in vivo term. The fourth step is use the coding process to generate a description of a setting or people as well as categories or themes for analysis. Description involves a detailed rendering of information about people, places, or events in a settings. This analysis is useful in designing detailed description for case studies, ethnographies, and narrative research projects. The coding process used to generate a small number of themes or categories, about 3 to 5 categories. These themes are the one that appears as major findings in qualitative studies and are stated under separate headings in the findings section of the study. They should display multiple perspectives from individuals and be supported by diverse quotations and specific evidence. The fifth step is decide how the description and themes will be represented. The most popular approach is to use a narrative passage to convey the findings of the analysis and detailed discussion of themes and subthemes or interconnecting themes. The following are used by qualitative researchers as adjuncts to the discussion: visuals, figures, or tables. They present the process model as in the grounded theory, a drawing of the specific research site as in ethnography, or they convey descriptive information about each participant in a table as in case studies and ethnographies. The last is the final step in data analysis. This involves making an interpretation of data that as what Lincoln and Guba of 1985 called lesson learned. This lesson could be the researcher's personal interpretation expressed in the individual understanding that the researcher brings to the study from his or her own culture, history, and experiences. A meaning derived from a comparison of the findings with information gleaned from the literature or extant theories, and suggesting for new questions that needed to be asked, questions the researchers had not foreseen earlier in the study. Thus, interpretation in qualitative research can make many forms, be adapted for many different types or design, and be flexible to convey personal research based on actions and meaning.
Today, I'm Habea Began, and in this part of presentation, I will be having a brief explanation about data analysis according to research design. Now let's talk about the grounded theory of Corbin and Strauss in 1990 and 1998. Under this theory, we have open coding, which breaks down data into meaningful units and assigns initial codes. We also have actual coding that focuses on one code, exploring its conditions, actions, or strategies, consequences, and context. We also have selective coding, which integrates findings into a coherent story, connecting categories and developing a core theme. However, the process is iterative, meaning you move back and forth between steps as you refine your understanding and build your theory. Additionally, theoretical sampling might be used to collect new data based on emerging insights. Let's move on to case study and ethnographic research of steak in 1995. Both methods involve deep immersion in a specific context. Case studies focus on a single case or individual, program, or event within its bounded context. After detailed description, analysis uses methods like thematic analysis or process tracing to understand the case in depth and draw relevant conclusions. Ethnography immerses the researcher in a cultural setting for an extended period. Detailed descriptions focuses on rich observations and field notes. Analysis involves identifying shared patterns or thematic analysis, examining language use or discourse analysis, and creating visual representations or cultural mapping to understand the cultural system and its meaning for participants. Now let's delve into the phenomenological research of Mustakas in 1994. Under this, we have significant statements, identifying meaningful phrases that capture the essence of participants' experiences. We also have generalization of meaning units, grouping these statements into themes based on shared meanings. Then we have essence description, synthesizing themes into a concise description that captures the core meaning and lived experience of the phenomenon. However, bracketing is crucial. Researchers must set aside their biases to interpret participants' perspectives authentically. Lastly, we have narrative research. As I mentioned in my presentation, this method analyzes participant stories using structural elements like plot, setting, character development, etc. Or let's say it offers a unique way to understand individual experiences by delving into the stories participants tell.
Good day to everyone. Welcome to this part of the presentation titled Collecting Data Through Observation, Interviews, and Other Methods. Now, let's say you are conducting a research about the mood of a person when presented with various pictures and videos. Most likely, you will need to collect data for it, right? But how exactly do you collect data? There are a multitude of ways for us to collect data. But for now, we are going to be using the more common and basic types of methods. But first, what does it mean to collect data? Data collection is the process of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest in an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer stated research questions, test hypotheses, and evaluate outcomes. So, essentially, data collection is a process. You pile up all the information and data that you have gathered so that you can use it to answer some questions, test hypotheses, and evaluate some outcomes that is in relation to the research. As stated previously, the basic and most common methods of data collection used in qualitative research are observations, interviews, document reviews, and audio and visual materials. The choice of the method is dependent on the needs of the research. The researcher may adapt to a variety of research techniques or a combination of the methods. We will introduce you to the techniques and methods used in qualitative research. Observation in research. Observation is a preferred tool for collecting data where the use of interviews and questionnaires are not possible, such as when the studied participants are very young children and those with disabilities. When using the observation method, you are using your senses to observe and study people in their natural setting. It involves observing behavior and recording the results of your observations, using the following systematic guidelines. Observation should be certain and carefully planned. Pre-planned research questions serves as guides throughout the process. This means that whatever you are supposed to be observing, it shouldn't be broad and messy. You can use pre-planned questions so that you can be guided throughout the process. An observation checklist should be prepared prior to the observation process. This shall be used for recording observations. You can use a checklist to record data. A video recording may also be used when observing behavioral data that you want to measure or collect. And finally, both qualitative and quantitative research methods may be used in data analysis. It may not matter whether you use qualitative or quantitative research, as long as it gives the desired results.
Interview. An interview is a personal conversation between two or more people which constitute the target population for the purpose of collecting information for a research project. Interviews are used to explore the opinions, beliefs, viewpoints, thoughts, experiences, and judgments about something. The interview method is preferred by researchers on qualitative research projects due to its high response rate, longer time and opportunity to view behaviors and listen to personal views and perceptions about a research topic of interest. To add some, interview also involves conducting intensive individual interviews with a small number of respondents to explore their perspective on a particular idea, program, or situation. Now let's talk about the forms of interviews. Actually, there are 3 forms of interviews, and let's discuss each and every one of them. First is the structured interview. In a structured interview, the researchers uses an interview schedule. This is a set of prepared questions that are asked from one respondent to another. The interviewer cannot change the wordings of the questions nor rephrase the original questions. This is also known as a standardized interview or a researcher-administered survey. Second is the semi-structured interview. The interviewer has a predetermined set of questions or schedule, but as a researcher, you can explore other information. The respondent is free to answer the questions. This needs longer time to conduct, allowing the respondents to discuss experiences or perspective on a particular topic. Additional questions are asked by the interviewer for additional information needed. Lastly, the unstructured interview. This is a very informal form of interview. An interview schedule is necessary. The researchers usually uses open-ended questions, giving him the opportunity to ask questions for clarification and deeper understanding. This type of interview is time-consuming, and you have to employ a different type of data analysis. This is more casual and unrehearsed. They depend on free-flowing conversation, which tends to focus on your personal qualities as they relate to the topic.
Interviewing individuals for a qualitative research. We all know that interviews are most commonly used qualitative data gathering technique, and they're used with grounded theory, focus group, and case studies. So, when interviewing an individual to obtain detailed information or perception about the topic or issue, it is usually referred to as in-depth interview. In-depth interviews are used if respondents are not comfortable discussing in a group. So the following is a simple checklist or guide in conducting in-depth interviews. So first is the planning stage. It identifies and helps define your focus, method, and goals while also outlining the research project from the start to finish. You may identify first the participants in the study by groups. You may use purposive sampling, then you may identify the individuals within the formed group. Have a list of the respondents to be interviewed. The second one is the development of instrument. It is a tool used to collect, measure, and analyze data related to your research interest. Develop the interview guide. List the question to be asked during the interview. An ideal number of not more than 15 questions may guide you in the interview. However, further questions may be asked for in-depth probing of issue which may pop up during the interview process.
Hello everyone. So I will be discussing the interviewing groups of people for research or focus group discussion. Focus groups are used when your research interest is on the cultural norms of a group of people. You will be able to generate views, perceptions, practices, and beliefs on issues unique to the cultural groups or subgroups represented. When interviewing groups of people called focus group, here are some guides for you to follow. First, employ the purposive sampling in choosing the group of respondents. By choosing respondents, it needs to ensure that the respondents chosen has experience to the research objectives, selecting participants that are based on predetermined criteria so that researchers can address this research question better and achieve more meaningful insights. Next is invite the group of respondents in advance. Inviting the respondents in advance can give them better preparation. Give them time to prepare mentally and gather their thoughts to think about the response, resulting in more insightful contributions during the interview. Next is send the information sheet and consent form to the respondents. This ensures the participant to fully understand the purpose of the research and fully aware what their participation entails and can choose to participate or not. Next is set the time and venue of the interview. Setting time and choosing a suitable venue allows researchers to plan for their interview. This can minimize disruptions and can also make necessary arrangements. Next is set up the technical support like video recording, camera, projectors, etc. Setting up technical support in group research interviews enhances data collection. Recording the interview sessions provides a permanent record of the discussions, ensuring accuracy and completeness in data documentation. Next is provide refreshments for the participants and offer them traveling expenses if needed. Offering refreshments can help maintain participants' energy levels and concentrations throughout the interview. And offering traveling expenses removes potential financial barriers to the participation, making it more accessible for individuals who may otherwise be unable to attend due to financial constraints. Next is provide the proper orientation about the interview to the participants. This ensures that the participants understand and are aware about the objectives of the research, as well as their role in the interview process. Next is explain the objective or purpose of the research study in the interview process. This can motivate participants to share their perspectives and experiences more candidly and shows respect for participants' time and willingness to participate. Next is develop and use the interview guide with open-ended questions. This allows participants to express themselves freely and in their own words, and provides flexibility during the interview, allowing researchers to adapt the questioning based on the participants' responses. And lastly, in focus group interviews, You may ask further questions, clarify issues, or unclear responses. Asking further questions demonstrates active listening and engagement with participants' contributions. Clarifying unclear responses helps ensure that researchers fully understand the participants' perspectives, experiences, and viewpoints.